No, were we going to also look at other states and, or certainly what's going on in New England, and standardizing, trying to standardize, was that part of that conversation and trying to standardize some of this stuff, or?
We did look to some other states, their application. We
Yeah.
haven't had a communication with the different states about coming up with one standardized forms for
Yeah.
the New England area. That we have not done yet, but that certainly can be something that we can do for the future, but we reviewed the other applications.
And is this, do you feel like, a pretty broad question, but is this pretty similar to the information that, what's going on in Connecticut?
It is
And
very similar to the information
Yeah.
that they're asking. So one, what we would like to include, but we would have to have a meeting with the medical advisory board, is a waiver, and that's up to this board, a waiver that allows us to speak with the doctor's offices when they've submitted information to us. What we have found in the past is sometimes the information is fraudulent, so they'll have a notice from the doctor's office, and it's not, the information is not accurate. Another thing that we would like to speak with the medical advisory board about is the forms, the medical forms, so that instead of just having this information indicated here, what we require, the forms can be included with the application, so that they can just hand the medical documentation to their doctor so they can fill it out. But
Yeah.
that's something that we need.
And if I remember correctly, that was important to, some of the feedback we got was the
Yes.
meds being standardized too, right? Because
Correct.
that's obviously a lot.
So we have to speak with the medical advisory board on that. We
Yeah.
looked into it, but it was just the information that we were trying to figure out to send out to the doctors is just not something that we would be able to do based on our expertise.
Yeah.
So we would need assistance from the doctors for that.
Yeah, great. Did you have something, Joe?
No, I just, so this is authorization for R&B information. Are we authorization, I thought we were authorizing their medicals, is that what you just said?
Right, so that will be on the agenda once we can schedule the next medical advisory board meeting, so that they can assist us with that, the actual form.
So what about sending their medicals anywhere? Is that not supposed to be?
Oh, yes,
That
oh,
will
okay,
also
yes,
be
that will be
included,
included. Yes.
It will be?
Yes.
Yes.
It should have been?
Yes, it will be. It's a separate sheet. So when we put it online, we'll include it,
But it's not part of this?
not part of this.
Okay. Are we approving that today, though?
It's already
Been approved?
Yeah, it's already been approved,
That-
and it's posted on.
Okay.
They're already
Good
using
to
it.
know.
So the RMV, I'm just curious in this one, that's not new?
No.
It allows us to pull a
Okay,
picture,
good.
no license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I would imagine there would be pushback on that from some people.
yeah.
But if it's not new, that's good. So we would want to approve this new application, correct? Okay, so any more discussion before we
Well,
make a motion on this?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just had a question on so similar to their, RMV, the request to directly communicate with the doctors on medical information, that's going to be in the medical package, which is not currently included in the
Yes.
application?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to work with the medical advisory board
Yes.
on that? Is that solely to confirm that the information isn't fraudulent? This is just a related but separate question.
That's one of the issues that we've
We
had.
run into
Yeah.
more than, we run into a lot with fraudulent medicals.
Yeah,
Huh.
okay.
And right now, the only way we can look at those right now is we call the doctor's office. We can't give many particulars, we just say, did you send this letter to us on this date? And we don't ask them about the content.
Yeah.
So they either have it there or they don't, and that's how we make our decision.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the medical advisory board is aware of that issue, right? That there's a
Yeah.
lot of fraudulent
Yes.
activity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
my-
again, I would think they would have some feedback on, how to make that better.
Well,
And
unless
and
the
I'm sure it's
documents are
only.
sent right from the doctor's office to us, I
Right.
don't see how.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's where my train of thought was going, is will that approval allow that? If a piece of information is missing, can the doctor's
I think it
office
would.
send
I
it
think
directly
it
to
would.
you? And then the next question is, do you want to be in that business of now taking that away, that responsibility away from the fighter or promoter, and now you're trying to track down medical information directly with the doctors? That might be.
Well,
more-
we wouldn't be tracking, we
Well, no,
would
I'm
be
just-
tracking, or we
what
would
that
be expecting it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to us who sends it right now.
Okay.
So we get it either by fax, email, or mailed.
Yeah.
But if it's coming directly from a doctor's office, we feel a lot more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, my opinion on it is, and this is also feedback from the community that we heard, that medicals, especially for the professionals that are fighting in different states, it's not easy for these people to pull all this together. And so if we can start moving in a direction of standardizing it, certainly in New England, so it's, if somebody just fought in Connecticut and then, you know, they're coming here, it's not, we're just trying to make it easy for them, but at the same time, we need to protect ourselves against fraudulent activity. So it's that balance of not adding bureaucracy, protecting against fraudulent behavior. So
I think maybe you give the applicant the option, either they can have a letter directly sent from the doctor's office, or let them know if it's something that comes to them, there needs to be a call to check.
Yeah, yeah, because first off, it's part of a completed
Yeah.
application.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the fighter's responsible for it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if, you know, you have your documents, you have your own documents. So if you had gone to a doctor on a certain date, you either can go back to your doctor and get those documents again. I mean, the only time we have those issues is when they've gone to the neighborhood, these new health centers, what do they call them?
Yep, urgent care.
Urgent care things,
Yep.
that's where we have most of the issues.
Because it's always a rotating doctor, right?
Mm.
Yeah, the office should have. Yeah, Commissioner, I mean, or Chair, I agree. I think in a best case, you know, maybe the health is included with the application. We can get some type of standardization among the New England states where there's so much, you know, crossover between the fighters. So the whole process is a little bit easier with the medicals, which seem to be the feedback from the community. That really seems to be a big hurdle.
Yeah, which is, sounds like that we're not going to tackle that one today. Sounds like
In the
we-
meantime, what we can do is,
Yeah.
as part of the instructions, we can put in a note here to let the fighters know that we will share the information, so that there won't be, I just noticed it's not in here, so there won't be any confusion. So we can add a note saying, if you've already taken these, if you've already had these examinations done in a different state, we would accept it.
I think that's great. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because that's not,
Doesn't have to be a Massachusetts doctor. I think that's what the
Mhm.
confusion was
Right.
too.
Mhm.
So if we add
That's
that,
what I
then
heard,
hopefully,
yeah.
because I think it's going to probably take a while for the standardized forms. because
Yeah,
we have
I
to
agree.
work with the different
yeah,
states.
absolutely. That's kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
best case scenario when we can get to it. I think that would make the whole process easier, but
Yeah,
we're
great
obviously
suggestion.
not there yet.
Yeah. So with that last point then, do we want, can we approve this, kind of subject to that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you would like, we can come back with the application for your final review, or you can approve it pending the note be added in.
Why don't we, I prefer to approve it pending, because it always takes a long time to get brought
together.
up to speed on what's, you know.
We'll get back together, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the professional fighter application with the pending language to include the medical.
Second.
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. So why don't we jump back, because I'm guessing Yvonne is here.
Yes.
Is Yvonne here? Yeah.
Really just, yeah.
Why don't we, Yvonne, if you could come on up. So, application to be a promoter here in Massachusetts.
Yes.
That's a great place to be.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yvonne, if you could just state your name for the record.
Yvonne Grealesh.
And if you, while we get to the application in our packets, maybe if you could just tell the board why you're interested in becoming a promoter.
I am interested because I was a promoter at one time and I'm reapplying, so we can put our own shows on again. I have a gym. Been running a gym for 30 years. We have fighters, and we feel like if we put our own show on, we can have our own fighters first and foremost in the show. We have our own ideas, like we've got our own venue we'd like to pursue as well. We're able, we're capable. I think, you know, and I've done it before. I just want to do it again. I've got an experience in the boxing community. As I say, the gym. I was a deputy commissioner at one time for Massachusetts. I have been very involved in the amateurs as well. So my experience is quite in depth. But I want to start with the, you know, like working from our own club and working with our fighters and give them a shot, you know, as opposed to going to other clubs. But, you know, that's about it really for that.
Great. Commissioner, any questions? Yvonne?
So I see you got your bond, so you're bonded. Is this the,
I have the bond, if you
Yeah,
want,
I see.
the original.
yeah, I see this here. So you bonded. So your financials,
Yes.
is this on the business? Is this your personal?
That's personal. I do have somewhere in mind if it is approved.
How big does the venue accommodate?
How big? It's the Dorchester Armory. I've spoken to Colonel Mullen, and I have to meet with him again if once it's approved. I've worked with him before. Well, not him personally, but his predecessor.
Just curious, are you, your plans would be to promote some fighters that are training at your club?
Yes.
And
then-
Female, male?
Both.
Yeah, yeah, great,
We have both.
yeah. And are you working with any professionals in the club?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone?
No, I have no problem.
Okay, anyone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve Yvonne Grealish?
Grealish.
Grealish for a promoter.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know whether you, thank you. Did you want that? Did
We
I
have a
give
copy.
you
We have a copy.
the license? Because I gave you an expired one,
Oh,
remember?
that's right, you did.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in today, Yvonne.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I put you guys in the GPS, right?
And you ended up,
1000
and
Washington.
you ended up downtown.
Yeah.
I went to, they wanted to send me to Lower Mills.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Go down to
right.
Dorchester,
Yeah, that's
And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, Jen told me downtown. Thank you very much,
Right,
gentlemen.
yeah.
Ladies, sorry. Thank you.
All right, do we want to try Daniel back again, Jen?
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
No, we actually
She's here.
Oh,
Number
that's
4?
Ernest?
Number 4.
Yeah, they call me Joey.
Oh, Jerry. Why don't you come on up, Jerry? How do you get Jerry from Ernest?
Gerard, middle name.
I got it. I go by my middle name, too.
Yeah, I don't like Ernest.
It's like my parents tortured me doing it.
I know, me too. I'm still going through it.
All right, Jerry, if you could, why don't you just talk a little bit about why you are applying to be a judge and give your credentials, be helpful for us.
I started boxing like 50 years ago. And I trained fighters, I had a gymnasium, referee, judge, did it all. Actually, it's my life, it's in my blood. I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm still doing it now. I'm judging now with the USA Boxing, the amateurs, so I did pro shows before. I'd like to come back and try to do it again.
Okay, great.
You know, I like doing it, I love what I do. It's interesting, meet a lot of nice people, and think I do a good job. I have a resume if you need it, if you want to look at it. I don't think the application states everything.
So Jerry, it says that for a judge, you're either certified to perform the respective duties by either the commission or another organization approved by the commission, or you hold the same license in good standing in another jurisdiction. Do you have any of those?
Commissioner, excuse me, about 10 minutes ago, 10 minutes before the meeting started, the chief of officials from USA Boxing, this should have come in. We've been waiting for this for his application. He has in good standing since 1995 with USA Boxing, New England, from Stephen Clark, the chief of officials. This is on my work email. We've been
Okay.
waiting for this to come over from him.
I think I gave her a copy the last time I was here.
That was a letter of recommendation,
Recommendation.
but we
Good
have,
standing.
we needed notification of good standing.
That you're in good standing. So you're, I guess, certified or approved by the USA
USA
Boxing?
Boxing.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
to be a judge for them, so that shows that you're in another organization, and we approve, obviously, USA Boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Issues for me.
So you're in good standing with USA Boxing. Are you actively judging shows?
Yes, I am.
Over the last 6 months
Oh,
currently?
yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever there's a show, I get called to work at, worked, I think, 2 weeks ago with a show.
The only thing I don't see here is date of birth on your
Oh, we
application.
We
redacted.
redact
redacted
that.
that. We redact that.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Anyone?
I make a motion that we approve.
Okay.
I'd like to second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Jerry.
gentlemen. Have a good day. Thank you.
We'll just get that into the record.
Do you need anything from me?
Ken, so we'll just put that into the record of this file.
Well,
Okay, thanks.
We try to damn you out again.
Yeah. I didn't want to say in front of him, but is there an age for judges? It's a little scary, isn't it?
Yes.
My grandfather was 93 and still drives.
Right.
That's scary.
Hi, Dan?
Yeah,
Hi, this is Jen from the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission. I have you on conference call for your application with the board.
well, good, thank you. How are you?
Okay, not bad. Can you hear me?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, well.
Hi, Dan, this is Rod Walkie, Chairman of the Massachusetts State Athletic Commission. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. How you doing?
Good. So if you could just give us a couple minutes on why you're applying to be a referee here in Massachusetts.
Well, I'm already a licensed referee in Massachusetts. I had gotten a call requesting to put an application to do Muay Thai because you were going to start with professional Muay Thai events there also, which I do currently. I do that now. So I put the application in.
Okay, great. Commissioners, anybody have any questions for Dan?
Hey, Dan, this is Brian Lambert, Commissioner. So the states that you referenced on your application, New Jersey, Connecticut, et cetera, are those states you're currently licensed for Muay Thai as a referee?
Muay Thai. Muay Thai is a good drink, though.
Sorry.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. Sorry.
You can make my time.
It's summertime. It's summertime.
One taste better than yeah, I currently do not just those states, but wherever Glory or Lion Fight, they give me a call to go work, I do. But those are the two closest ones. I hold a license in Connecticut with Mohegan Sun. I also hold a license at Fox with Kenny Rios in Connecticut. And I've repped in Pennsylvania. I just did a show in Italy this weekend for Bellator Kickboxing, which is also Muay Thai rules. So I've been around the world doing Muay Thai.
Yeah, extensive resume.
Jen, he's worked for me at Glory. Do I have to recuse myself? Yeah. Hey, Dan, it's Paul Carger, State Athletic Commissioner, but also one of the partners at Glory. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I'm going to recuse myself from the vote since you've worked with us before.
Okay. Well, no, you should be allowed to vote, you know how I am. I'm just kidding. But, no problem, whatever. You know, I'm just here to help. If you guys need need a referee, I'd be glad to go up there. It's not that far of a drive, so it's convenient for me also.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time. I currently still teach Muay Thai. I have students, and I just don't have fighters anymore, but I do have students that train with me. So I keep up on the sport quite a bit.
Through the chair. We also have a letter of good standing from Foxwoods, from Kenneth Ritz.
Okay.
And that will be included in the packet also.
I make a motion that we approve Dan's application.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations, Dan, but before you go, you have to tell us one story about being a professional stuntman.
That's pretty funny. I was hired to do a fight scene with Taylor Lautner, and they called me up and asked me my height, my weight, everything, so they could get my costume. I go there, and the director looks at me and goes, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "I'm Dan Miragliotta. I'm here to do a fight scene with Taylor." He goes, "How do I sell that? You're 6'4", 300 pounds. He's 5'7", 135 pounds. So I became a Russian mobster, and I got shot in the first scene.
Well, you seem like a real interesting guy. I hope to meet you someday. Congratulations.
Well, I hope I'll meet you up there. Thank you. It'll be my pleasure.
Okay.
I'm probably one of the easiest going guys you ever met in your life.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
He's one of the big
Yes,
names
yes.
in the sport. Ref force.
Great.
My time. Let's see where my head is.
Yeah, he's licensed to do that.
That reminded me in my 7th grade science class that we had a substitute teacher, and she was trying to explain an organism. And she wrote orgasm up on the blackboard in the whole.
You lost the class?
All right, so have we done 8 already? I might be losing my mind. Review of MSAC.
We started.
We talked about it.
Started.
Yeah, we're doing.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to that and try to hit another one here? Because we went through professional fighter apps. How deep do we want to go on this today?
Well, like I said, what's the priority? So the fight is done, professional fighter is done, and then you said the promoter?
Promoter.
Promoter was kind of the big one. What is this amateur unarmed combatant medical waiver? We already did that, right? So now we're just on promoters.
Oh, sure. Amateur fighters, can we do that before promoter?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Well, I was hoping we could do amateur fighter.
Sure, go ahead. So what's changed, what's new, what's different?
Again, it's the instruction, but that's for all of them.
Okay.
They require, we did these applications, keeping in mind the regulations. The regulations require 2 trainer attestations. One from an actual trainer who's assisting the fighter, and the second would be from someone who basically has personal knowledge of the fighter and their abilities. Really, that's the difference between the 2 applications. Before, we were really using one application for both amateur and professional, but now we've sort of separated the 2 to make it consistent with the regs.
Okay. And do we want to?
We actually,
Go
so
ahead.
another change is the form that you approved
We
today.
just approved.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's included with the application in case they want to waive the testing requirements. So that's included with their
Yeah.
application.
Yeah.
And would we want to add, assuming that we are going to approve this, do we want to also make it pending to accepting medicals from other states like we did in that first?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we kept, I'm sorry, Chairman, so we kept the trainer attestation as always?
We did, so the regulations require that.
For the amateurs?
For the amateurs.
And we were just lumping in with professionals?
We
that's why-
were,
okay.
we were requiring them to provide
That's,
it.
that's good stuff.
And just make that clear, why professional don't need it, why amateurs do need it, why?
Yeah, this is their, is this the debut?
Debut application.
It's the first time you're applying.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think
I got
we're
it.
mixing two applications together. So there's a pro debut, and this is the amateur one. So the regulations doesn't I couldn't find anything in the regulations that specifically said what we needed for amateurs. So we went along with what was included for the pro debut, from going from amateur to professional. So if someone is coming in off the streets and they want to fight as an amateur, we thought that it would be best to have a trainer step in and say, this person is ready to fight.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Yeah, so that's why we included those.
Okay, that makes sense.
What is it, it's not their first time fighting? Because they have to
It's
get
for
this
the
every time.
Amateurs.
Amateur,
But you have to get one every single time you fight?
until you make your pro debut.
Right, so we're asking for trainer attestation so how do we know if it's a 6th amateur fight?
Because they're going to provide.
They provide the record
records.
information on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's
But-
the national, I'm sorry.
No, no,
The
go.
stats we look up.
Okay.
It will tell you how many
So do we
fights
want
they
trainer
have.
attestation for every single?
No.
Well, it'll only be, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It'll only be one time when we hope to eventually go to a 1-year license. They'll be getting that attestation.
No, I get that,
one
so
time.
I know that's our goal, but what,
But,
so.
yeah, so it would be every time.
single time we're asking for trainer attestation?
Yeah.
But that's in the regulation for every amateur
No,
license?
No.
It's for the pro debut. So what we can do is, their first application to us requires the attestation, and then the subsequent applications or renewals could be something different. So the renewals, they wouldn't need a trainer attestation if they're,
I personally don't mind it,
Right.
because I think you can get out of shape pretty quick, and I can
Okay.
raise my hand on that
Well,
one, right?
One of the questions I had, right along with this, and I was going to mention today to you guys, is the board not interested in what a person's training regimen is, up to any fight? In the amateur, they have that one question, is the length of time the fighter has been training for this present, but are we not interested in what their training regimen is for any fight?
I don't think, I'm not.
it's in there.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Not if we don't get the attestation, it's not.
Well-
In the pros, we're not asking for it. So they just fill out an application and it just, we never
But
know what
is-
their
but
training
we're-
regimen is.
We're going by the regulation. What's
Right.
the regulation called? We can't ask for something that we can't ask for. That's why we did this whole exercise. I think the one thing we have been was inconsistent.
Mhm.
Right? And we've been all different directions, so we're just trying to tighten it up.
Mhm.
Then if we feel as though as we go through this regulatory change, that's something that we want to incorporate into the
Okay.
professional boxing, we'll do it.
We do have some leeway, since
Mhm.
they have to apply on a form that we create. So if that's something that the board feels
Okay.
necessary, then we can actually include it in the body of the application as opposed to a trainer attestation.
So we took it out because, why? People thought it was cumbersome?
The trainer attestation for
Yeah,
the professionals,
professionals.
the regs, it does
Just
not
doesn't
call for the
okay,
trainer
that was my
attestation.
point. Okay.
But we can ask them a question about their training regimen.
Oh, we can do that.
So they
Okay.
can themselves answer.
All right.
You know, I've been in the gym
Yeah.
once a year.
Yeah, I tried.
I tried to
I
get
did the
there.
Stairmaster.
You're the Jim's favorite customer.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, right.
so if you would like to include that, we can in our professional application.
Just a question about their training regimen.
Right, so it's up to the board, we can.
Okay.
We've already approved that.
We did.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
So,
Yeah, I see no harm in having that. It's all about safety, so.
so we would need to pull that back. Amend the professional. Oh, we just-
Yeah, let's do the amateur first. So, someone like to make a motion to, am I allowed to make motions, by the way? Okay, someone make a motion.
Motion to add an additional question on,
I think let's tackle the
Oh,
amateur.
sure.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
motion to, what is it, for The attestations that we're talking about?
Amateur application.
Just
Mo-
approve.
Motion to approve the amateur application.
Pending.
Pending.
To include the,
Pending the medical from the other states.
yeah.
Pending the addition of the medical waiver from the other outside states.
Not waiver, just
No.
medicals.
Medical.
Sharing.
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 Yeah.
I second that.
Is that good? You guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I know we went so many different directions, so we'll start.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we, I guess, I don't know how to say it. Make a motion to take back the professional boxing application. Vote?
I think you can just
Or can we just amend it?
Amend it.
I'd like to make a motion that we amend the professional boxing application to include a question about the training regimen of said applicant.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay.
Do we want to try to do another application? Okay, which one?
House time, are you good?
Yeah, it's only 5:12.
Yeah.
I need a bathroom break for 5 minutes. You want to do it right now? Sure. Okay, just take a 5-minute recess. Thanks. But yeah, we might as well try to, I think now that we know what we're doing, we can, plow through these.
I'm okay on time today, so I'm here as long as you guys.
I'm good, I got another half hour.
Yeah.
I think this is important.
Am I the only one?
My tiebreaker.
My
Yeah, we need a
ties.
Mai
Mai
Tai
tais,
break.
too many Mai tais.
Yeah.
Too many Mai tais.
That's a good one.
No Paul is chuckling to himself.
Okay.
So, pro debut application.
Yes.
So let's go through that. Anything of note, Tasha?
Before, we were just using one application for all fighters, so now this makes it a little bit more specific. This is consistent with the regulation. It asks for, their information, it asks for their records, which the regulations clearly want for us to request. Medical condition, trainer attestation, that's a requirement of the regulations, so we can't. 2 trainer attestations, actually. So we have that here, and plus the application. So it just makes it clear that this one is from amateur to professional.
Okay.
Instead of just one application for every single, for every group.
Okay. And just a question, want to make sure you guys are looking at this, because you're the ones processing these, right?
We were
So
actually
We did
all
this
involved.
together.
You were all
in
Yeah.
involved,
this.
terrific,
Yeah.
that's great, okay. So I would think that we're just same deal, that we want to have it pending sharing medicals. So, any questions, guys? Make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept pro debut application,
I second that.
the pending
Oh, sorry.
medical.
Yep, I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. All right. Promoter application?
So I know that you mentioned seeing the old one versus the new one, so since Yvonne was here, you can actually use her application so that
Okay.
you can see what the differences are.
You stated that was the one that you thought had a significant amount of change?
Promoter.
Yeah, the promoter.
You see hers, the old application, just simple 2 sheets. But the new one is a little bit more detailed, and
Yeah.
again, consistent with the regulations. It has the instruction sheet.
Mm-hmm.
It has the information about the applicant. It also has information about the business, their experience, whether or not they've been convicted in other jurisdictions, if they've been licensed, revoked, or disciplined by any other jurisdiction, promoter attestation. So the biggest difference really is the statement of financial condition.
Mhm.
The regulation required them to provide a statement, but basically they were just submitting whatever they had, bank statements, or just a form. This makes it clearer, more specific. They have to fill this out, they have to indicate what their assets are, they have to indicate what their liabilities are, and then they have to provide they have to provide verification, so they have to attach a copy of their bank account information to confirm the information they listed on their statement of financial condition. That's Schedule A. Schedule B is if they've indicated that they have stocks, bonds, they have to be specific about that here and also attach verification statements. Schedule C is real estate if they want to use that. Again, verification of that. Schedule D is any other asset they want us to consider. And last, Schedule E, their liabilities. Some of their creditors, what payments, if any, they're making. So it's a little bit more detailed than them coming in with, a bank statement that says that they have $300,000 in the bank, if we don't have information as to whether or not they owe $1 million to 10 other people.
Yeah, right. Because we did get, in the last application, Mr. Chairman, her balance, basically her bank statement,
Mhm.
which was, pretty significant, but you're right, we don't know what condition that's in. That's why I was
Yeah.
asking if it was the business, because I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah. So, just to make sure that the tail's not wagging the dog, so to speak, this additional information that we're asking, this is all coming from because of the way the regulation is written? Is that correct?
Yes, and I believe you guys have a copy of the
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah,
It
the-
does say,
States a couple things that
Yeah.
are needed, yeah.
right.
Sorry,
You know,
go ahead,
because
Natasha.
we're trying to, it's all, I think what we do, it's that fine balance of, wanting to do the right thing, but not being over bureaucratic. And I don't think that I'm all too concerned about it because it's a promoter's license. I think I personally would get a little more sensitive when it has to do with, trying to get fighters and fights going on, and obviously all this feedback we got in these open meetings. And so I'm not really overly concerned about this promoter, but if you think about a promoter, financials are really important. I think making sure they're not felons, and so we're getting that information, right? We're validating. We're able to validate the criminal records and things like that, or no?
Well, we have a question here about whether or not they've been convicted of a crime in any jurisdiction.
But what if they lie?
So then the question becomes whether or not the board would like for us to pull Corey, which really is it'll give us some information.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to start adding more bureaucracy, but is there, I guess, you know what I'm doing? I'm just trying to stir the pot a little bit on, is there any?
But I think you make a really valid point. I mean, I think more than any of them, the promoter is, you know, is really the business person, you know, so we need to make sure that not only they have financial wherewithal, but they haven't been, I mean, if you're in the ring and you're a convicted felon, you know, maybe for a better fight.
Right.
But, you know, for promoter, I mean, you've got dollars at stake, and so I think it's probably worth doing a query on a promoter, anybody that's touching money.
So, which is typical of Division of Professional Licensure. Prior to any licensure, we run queries, but many of our boards have a good moral character. I don't know if we have that in here.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like we have it in the actual promoter, but I don't know in the overarching.
I think overall, it does say it in there about good moral character.
Okay, so that gives you the authority to run a query. You can base your query run on that statement, which I don't know where it is. Isn't that in the regulation, or is that by statute? So the point that I'm making is, you know, my biggest fear as a commissioner of an agency is I license somebody that is allowed into someone's home who has a criminal record. So I've always heard on the side of, you know what, I'm gonna run queries on everybody.
I agree.
So it's not as, you know, it's probably not as dangerous as that, because they're not going into anybody's home.
Yeah.
But they are, to Paul's point, Commissioner Cargill's point, they're responsible for the entire event. And they're gonna pay people, they're not gonna pay people. They're gonna, if they have
Yeah.
outstanding debt, if they've been fraudulent in the past, if, you know, they've been a grifter,
I
so to
agree.
speak, you know.
But no, if there's major fraud in one, I mean, who is egg on their face? Us.
Right. At the end of the day, we're
And
licensed.
so when this has to do with money, I think we wouldn't want to run a query. So do we need to change anything in the regulation, or do we just need to add something to the application that then allows us to run that?
If it's,
query?
is it in there?
It talks about grounds for disciplinary action, excuse me, and it talks about whether or not they violated the laws of the Commonwealth.
But is that an initial application, or is that only after they've been?
No,
they've been-
that's
After false
disciplinary
statements,
actions.
So that's after they've been, a complaint has been filed against
Right,
them.
right.
Then we have that authority anyway with any
Right.
board. So if there's no, so you'd have to put it on the application that they would approve, the applicant would approve a query being run against them. Oh, I don't know, approve, whatever that's probably not the right word, but they'd have to agree to
Right.
having a query run. If we don't have that authority, then we can't put it on there. That's my point, which I don't know if we have the authority.
I'd have to look into that.
So we might not even have the authority to do it.
Okay.
Which is, you know, it is what it is. That could be a regulation change. If we
Right.
go through the process.
Yeah, so maybe we make a note that if we ever do get to it, on digging deep on the regulations, that's something that we talk
Right.
about. But it doesn't sound like we can really address that here in the application.
No, I think you'd almost, ours comes statutorily. I don't know if you can regulatory require a query. I don't know, you might be able to, I don't know, that's up to the lawyers to figure out. But most of ours come out of the statute, like the enabling statute of a board says that licensee or the applicant must be of good moral character.
Yeah.
That just opens the door to housing. How do you determine what good moral character is?
Mhm.
You have to run a query, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, I think that's what we gotta look at.
Okay.
Just one more comment from me. I do like the, you know, I think the exercise I've struggled with being on this commission was looking at applications and not really knowing what I'm looking at, right? Or knowing what we're actually asking. And I feel like we have definitely gone into that road or that path of, this is exactly what the regulations are asking for. So it's making us much more informed commissioners to make decisions on people. Because I remember a few times we had people come before us and their financial statement was, I'm not an accountant, I don't know, I couldn't figure it out, I don't know, but this kind of makes it a lot clearer. And I think that the next commission that comes in will have a nice clear path, so we'll go through this. So it's a really good legacy.
And I think to your point, you know, not picking on Yvonne at all, but just more of the process in that, you know, we have a statement of a bank account.
Right.
That doesn't really
Tell the picture.
tell the picture at all.
Right, right. And then, you know, I think from my perspective too, you feel like you're prying into somebody, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have 420 in the bank, how much you
Yeah.
owe? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least it's all here, and
Yeah.
we can kind of.
Well, but to the point of what the regs state, the ability to compensate the fighters.
Fighters.
So you do need to understand the
Understand
full financial
financial
picture, which makes sense that the application has changed. But if
Yeah.
you look at the regs, I mean, even in general licensing requirements, where there might be a general statement of good moral character or good, there's nothing in there
Right.
that
Yeah.
I'm seeing at first glance.
And how far do you go? I mean, if I were underwriting this for a bank, my job's on the line, you go pretty deep.
Mhm.
But it can get out of control. We're
Right.
gonna start doing that on
Go
every
down a rabbit hole, yeah.
application.
Yeah.
So,
But,
all right, so I think it's gotten a lot better,
Mhm.
and so,
so we asked the
Yeah.
question, right, have you ever been convicted of a crime? If they say yes, then we can bring them in and we can talk about it. We can
Mhm.
probably, I don't even know if we can run a query at that point. If they say yes, probably, I don't know, we'd have to figure that out. If they say no, and then we learn of it, now we got them lying on their application, which
Right.
is now we just revoke their life, whatever, because now we have discipline against them because they lied. And we can, you can find things out through Google search. I mean, you
Sure.
can find out someone's, you don't really need to query somebody, so, anyway.
okay. So this, with that aside, it seems like this is pretty straightforward then, in how it's been improved. So unless there's more discussion, would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the promoter application with further research on the good moral character.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Matchmaker application? Is that good? Go forward. This one should be pretty easy.
So the prior one, Chair, was
Mhm.
very bare bones. Also.
Okay. And this came from, some of these ideas came from looking at other applications in other states and
Yes.
probably common sense questions as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of qualifications?
No, they just have to indicate all the events that they served as a matchmaker, dating back 2 years or 5 events.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, there's really not a lot.
Right, right.
That we can ask, but I also think, Commissioner Cogan too, I think this is an important application too, because this is fighter safety. So if you're putting,
Mm-hmm.
a 30-0 guy against a 0-30 guy, right? Or, I think that's important, but we're bound by what we can ask.
Yeah, and I think that experience is a biggie there.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask for, previous events, this.
But how are you a matchmaker if you're not licensed?
Yeah.
So how would you have 2 years' experience of matchmaking without being a licensed matchmaker?
I know.
Unless you're in another jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Jurisdiction.
Well, you could have been working with somebody during any promotion, they have a number of people that do different things, so.
But they don't
you could
have to,
been
right?
working.
You don't have to do that to be licensed, basically, right? Because it's very simple, and I'm sorry to go, we're short on time. Application for license shall detail the applicant's background and experience.
I mean, I think in the real world, the way it works though, is we get someone in here who doesn't have experience, but then we can ask them, and then we can, have it pending, or probably using the wrong word, but almost a probation period on, I think we can put some rules around it and I think we've done that before.
Yeah.
Maybe not with a matchmaker, but,
That's something though, Mr. Chairman, you could definitely look at for the regulatory review process.
Mhm.
If you want to make a pending or probationary application.
Or shadowing.
Yeah.
You make
Yeah.
requirements,
Yeah.
and I
Right
think
now,
that's
we don't
smart.
require,
I think we should do that.
Where maybe another licensed matchmaker has to sign off as well for the first two events or
Yeah,
something.
whatever it is, we come up with something.
Yeah, because that is
We have to
a,
discuss that with the physicians as well.
because I think that, Paul, you're right, that it's a real hot button in this sport, and it's something it's very serious. So, but it doesn't seem as though, right, that's, today is where we need to go.
I make a motion, we approve the matchmaker application as written.
I second that.
All in favor? Okay. Manager application. Same story?
Same
It was pretty
story.
basic, and we've added. Is there anything, just from 40,000 feet, when it comes to a manager, it's not matching fights, it's not financials like promoters, it's not fighters, it's not, medicals, but in terms of a manager, is there anything that we want to be?
I mean, I think there's a lot of self-selection here.
Yeah, maybe another story for us.
He wants his Mai Tai.
Yeah,
And this one seems real straightforward to me.
it's a junk car. Yeah.
So the manager's responsible for the fighter, basically, they
Yeah.
manage the fighter, but do they manage their financials and stuff, or is that, or do we get involved in that? or-
We don't get involved in it.
So
We don't get
whatever the
involved in
management is, yeah.
contractual disputes.
Yeah, don't be afraid someone, all those stories.
Yeah.
Ripped off by their manager, but I guess.
But, but that's not our,
Right.
unfortunately,
Right.
that's not our job, so.
I make a motion to approve as written.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Trainer application.
Is there one, sorry, Chair,
No.
is just go in order? Do you have another, the ones remaining, is there one that's more urgent?
No, I think we're,
I don't know if we're going to get through all of them.
Yeah,
That's why I
no.
asked.
Whatever you guys are ready.
well, can we, maybe the ringside physician?
Okay. And then you want to stay there, right? Rest of the next.
Yeah, well, and they all seem so straightforward that we should be able to get through them real quick, unless anyone's pressed. But, so you want to go to ringside physician?
Right.
Is that what, okay. So walk us through that if you could.
So the ringside physician, again, is the instructions. Everything is fine in terms of what we're asking for. They need their resume, information about their interest, their experience. I know that this issue had come up previously about the procedure.
Going before the. medical,
Right,
yeah.
should they be
Mhm.
going before the medical advisory board, or should they be coming to the main board, to you? So I think it's not necessarily the application itself, but the procedure we follow once we receive the application.
And is the procedure a change in regs, or is that something we can?
No, the regs,
Personally,
it
I.
just explains
Yeah.
what's in the application, but doesn't really explain anything else. I know that we've done it differently in the past.
I mean, from a procedure standpoint, I think they should go in front of the medical advisory board.
Before they come to the commission?
Why?
Or, because the regs do state before the commission.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, so,
That's why I asked that.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, and I know that's what they've done, but I question it based on what was the authority of that
Mm.
medical advisory. So you run into the situation in North Carolina, Denver, right, where you're making a governing body that's made up of everybody in that profession,
Mhm.
approving someone to be licensed or not, that they can get into that profession. Right, so now, we're not doctors, although we don't have the expertise, but we'd have a different view of it. And also, there's nowhere in any reg or statute that says a doctor applying to become licensed by this commission has to go to any other body to be approved before they come in.
Yeah.
That's the facts. The process, I agree with you, there probably should be some sort of endorsement from someone in the medical field.
Yeah.
Although they do get they have to send, the medical society, whatever, voter registration, medicine, they have to be in good standing. No complaints.
But
no
can we
discipline.
ask the medical advisory board for their endorsement endorsement?
Yeah, we can do whatever we want, but it just is not in regulation,
Got it.
you know, so there's no, so that's like saying a fighter coming here, but you have to go to USA Boxing first, let them approve you, because they're in the boxing world, and then they'll endorse you to come before us. It's sort of separate, but it's similar
Yeah,
situated.
understood.
And they're also licensees as well. So they're currently.
The mass,
The physicians.
Our board of registration, our medical advisory board, are all licensees.
Right.
So they have a somewhat of, and this is not nefarious at all, they have somewhat of a vested interest in who's coming and who's going, right? Because it's taking time from them being at fights.
Right.
If you bring someone else in to be a
Potential
doctor.
conflict.
Ah,
There's an inherent conflict there,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
So
Maybe.
if there was people on the medical advisory that were not licensed by us, then that's a different story, right? They're just actually reviewing them based on their medical expertise, but.
Truly a neutral
Right.
third body, or third party, which they're technically not.
Right.
Yeah. So, can I ask a question here?
Yeah, that's
The,
all right.
you know, we had a physician come in a few months ago where I think the shadowing made a lot of sense. Really qualified, but one of the physicians that was on the medical advisory board that was here made a couple fair points of the ability to, you know, understand lacerations versus head trauma and the wide array of skills that a ringside physician needs, some things that we might not pick up on as quickly. So I think input from them is helpful, but would it be just more helpful where there are clear-cut cases where we can approve it, it's clear that they are fit and able, but would some type of shadowing provision solve this problem?
Yeah, I think-
Is I guess what I'm asking,
I think that's.
or concern.
Yeah, I actually think that's probably
Is that the
a better
best
way to
tackle
go.
it?
Right, because now we're provisionally approving them based on their ability to work with one of our licensed doctors. And if that licensed doctor comes back to us and said, you know, they have no clue what they're doing, you know, they shouldn't be any ringside anywhere, then that makes our decision easy. But going prior to, like kind of getting an endorsement without.
yeah.
And I'm not recommending that as a mandatory part of the process. I think there's kind of three levels. There's a denial, there's an acceptance, and then there's a gray area in the middle where shadowing is required. Is that something we have the ability to do?
Right, well,
Because
that would have to be probably.
Because if we have a clear-cut case where a physician from another state who's licensed, he's been 30 years a ringside
We've seen
physician,
him-
are we
seen
going
him
to
in
make him,
Vegas 100
are we going to
times.
make him shadow
Right.
for 2 fights when it's clearly unnecessary?
Right.
That's the other side of that.
Although they have to be licensed in Mass anyway, so as a doctor, right?
Yep.
Not every doctor's licensed in every state.
True.
Right.
So.
You probably have less crossover with the physicians than you do the fighters or
Could
other-
we make it as a part of the process where we suggest that the applying doc has to shadow first and then we get feedback, or?
I don't know if we can do it by regular, I think, because how do you, you'd have to, that would have to be a regulation, like you'd have to
I
say.
think that happens automatically, only because when the doctor's recruited in,
Yeah.
he'll usually assist another doctor who's recruited him.
Yeah.
Come to the fight, see what they're up against.
Yes.
And
I think that is what, if I was getting into this, I would do that because I'd be nervous of doing that. But someone who's like, you know what, I don't need it. Who are we to say you have to do it? We have no authority to tell them they have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm just like, hey, you tell me why I have to go shadow that doctor, you just approve me as a licensed. Why do I have to do that? Right? Because we have nowhere that we point to that. So I don't think anyone would have to challenge that because they'd be too nervous themselves, probably, right? To learn how to be a ringside physician. But, you know, some doctors have some egos, right?
Yeah. The other,
Just some. So where do we approach this then? Is it in the application, or we're talking about procedures here, so
Yeah.
where do we?
So the regulation calls for the application as written, right?
Yeah.
This is-
Right.
We captured everything in there.
Right.
This is, you know, Natasha brings up a really good point about, and the rest of the group, on, you know, just what is in practicum, what we've been doing with doctors. And we don't know if we have the authority to do that. And, you know, I'm sure the medical advisory board would be like, no, you have to send them to us, right? So, which I think in our consciousness, we're all like, yeah, doctors should approve of doctors, right? We don't know whether you're a good physician or not, because we're just, you know, like people up here, we're not in the medical field. But I don't think we have the authority, and if someone ever challenged it, they'd probably win, right? Because they could sue us and say, there's nowhere in any regulation or statute requires me to go to this board for them to endorse me to approve by you. It only says I need this.
How many applications do we get annually for new docs?
Not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
We get one.
Not
We
much.
need doctors right now.
Yeah.
Well, that was my other question, is the
Maybe
feedback
we
has
just leave
been
it
physicians
as
is an area of
denial,
need as well.
Accept
It
or
is.
denial, and we make a subjective call on it, whether or not we want to
Mm.
accept.
To me, it should be vetted through the medical advisory board. I mean, if there's a doctor put on, nobody knows more about a doctor than them. And once he's come on board and done a few fights with us, they should make the recommendation that, yes, he should be able to get licensed. And we have one right now, as a matter of fact, it's a great point. I don't mention the name, but some of us weren't really thrilled that he was approved. And working with him, I found him extremely weak. And I've had to alert the other doctors to watch out for this, and this. I've sat with the person myself and said, listen, you need to be a little bit more forceful with these. And the cursory examination, I'm not a doctor, but I know I need more than light in my eye to see if, cut the bandages off, and wasn't none of that, to just make sure the hands were okay. But our doctors on board now are aware of it. So now the question was, he should, to see how our doctors do it, when they're in the ring with the fighter and other people come around them. This doctor just lets the people come around them, and where the other doctors make us tell them to stand back, nobody's near the fighter, because they're asking them questions. And then you got the mother coming up asking him how he is, meanwhile he's not answering the doctor. So and this guy just doesn't, he lets it happen, and it's, so I brought it up to the doctors that were on.
But I think the challenge is, when do you determine that, before you license them or after you license them?
Exactly. Yeah. So the shadowing thing, again, I don't know if we can do it, not can do it, but the shadowing thing is where it's important, and that it's vetted through the board, the medical advisory board, to say, yeah, this guy's definitely okay, he's ready to do it.
But the medical advisory board is never gonna know that scenario, right? They're never gonna know what
They
kind
will,
of
because I brought
personality
it to
you
two of the
have.
members on the board.
No, I'm saying the person, when they go before the medical advisory board,
Yeah.
before they come to us.
Yeah.
That's a personality thing, right? The person is not forceful, they're allowing other people to push them out of the way. How would you?
That was only
ever
one of
know
the
that?
aspects of it. I just think he's, in what we do, and he's probably a great trauma guy, he's probably a great brain guy, but for what we do,
Mhm.
I don't think he has it. I just don't think he has it. I mean, can he get it? Absolutely. But that's gonna come with some experience and maybe a few shadowing, some shadowing.
Yes,
All right.
good, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, I guess, Guy, with your experience, would your recommendation be, or your thoughts, that shadowing is really the only way to get some sense of
And he's gonna
whether a
be-
physician
He or she will be
can...
shadowing with a doctor, a veteran, and they would be able to make that determination that he's okay, or at least give him the guidance to where he needs to be.
All right, well, you know what, I think we need to reel it in, because again, our task at hand today is this application, which is black and white, and say, okay, do we want to approve this application? But we're spending a lot of time, which is good, by the way, about the process. So my question is, if we do want to change this procedure, and put shadowing in, that's not done on the application, right? That's done somewhere else.
Right.
So why don't we just get back to this task, and then, put it on the agenda or I'll take recommendations on where we want to address that. So in terms of this Ringside Physician application, it appears that there's been some really positive changes, and there's nothing that comes to mind that we need to add at this point.
Right.
So do we want to make a motion to approve this?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to approve the new application for the Ringside Physicians.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
How are we doing on time? Do we want to keep plowing through, or do we want to just hit the rest of these
I
the
have
next
some-
meeting?
Can they vote without me on these? Is that enough?
That's fine. We do have a closed session investigation
Should
that
take
we
long.
conducted into a complaint that was filed against the licensee, so maybe we can put these off to the side so we can do the closed
I think we ought to, personally, I think we ought to table these, because I think we're having some really nice conversations instead of rushing through it. So why don't we table trainer application, seconds application, judge application, referee application, timekeeper application,
Score.
Scorekeeper, am I missing one? Scorekeeper
I
application,
think you did them all.
and that's it.
I make a motion, we table the remaining applications. Second, Commissioner.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And Paul, I think you're good to go, because we've got a form
Yeah,
without you.
I'm good.
So
Yeah.
I'll stay for 5 minutes.
Okay. So, where are we now on the agenda? Okay, so we have the upcoming event schedule.
So we want to go to 11.
11.
Yeah, so can we just go to 11?
We can, but he
We have to
has
close down the-
You have to
Yeah, so you just have to
take your
leave.
equipment.
Doesn't sound like it's gonna take long, so.